Hello everyone, Dice here. Today's gonna be a simple rundown of vehicle combat in Cyberpunk Red. No fluff, just an explanation as if I'm sitting right by you at your table. If you're wanting a much more detailed breakdown, there are other videos out there. This is just to get you going, as always. And this is going to cover everything from ground, air, and even sea vehicles all in one. Now, for the most part, you'll deal with vehicles obviously as a nomad. Nomad is one of those roles that are picked often by newer players. Totally fine. Don't let people discourage you from it or say, well, when are we really ever going to use a car? Ignore it. Go for it. And find your way to make your vehicle useful out of spite. It's pretty fun to do. When it comes to using them in combat, thankfully it's a lot more simple than you expect. Let's get to it. So, when it comes to vehicles themselves, each have a very standard setup for stats. They all have SDP, an amount of seats allotted to them which can be expanded upon, speed for combat, narrative speed, and then of course, the cost. The main things you want to look at for combat is going to just be that SDP and combat speed. Take the compact ground car here, which is the catch-all for most vehicles in Cyberpunk Red. You got your 50 SDP, which is structural damage points, and 20 for move. We'll use these as an example for the rest of the video. Structure damage points are flat out the hit points of the vehicle. As long as you have 1 SDP, your vehicle can still move just fine. If it drops to 0, it's destroyed and is kaput until repaired. It can't even count as cover, even if parts of it are specialized like bulletproof glass. If you don't have bulletproof glass, by the way, you can still be shot at yourself. Normal windshields do not stop a bullet at all. You can, though, make aimed attacks at a car, which lets you hit the SDP for double damage, and if it actually has some stopping power with armor, it can actually drop that by 2. Still following? Don't worry, it's gonna get smoother from here. That's just most of the number stuff done. It gets easier from here on out. Now, driving while in combat. This is where the stuff gets fun. You need an action to get into the car, and then an action to start the car up. Because remember, every single turn in Cyberpunk Red is 3 seconds, not 6 seconds like you would expect in 5th edition. So, be in the car before the combat begins, just to save yourself a turn. Once you turn the car on in combat though, you, as the driver, jump to the top of the initiative. Your vehicle's combat move stat becomes your move now. Just driving normally does not require a check as long as your base for the control skill is above a 9. A base is your actual stat plus your level in that skill. You don't need to always roll when starting to drive anywhere, and if it is below, you just need to beat a DV of 10. You'll be able to drive around absolutely normal, even in combat, just like you're moving. Want to pull off some tricks though? Vehicles are capable of something called a maneuver. These always require an action, but also require your move too. You must roll reflex plus the control skill, like drive land vehicle, and a roll of a d10. If you fail, you lose control of the vehicle. If you succeed, you can do a lot of different things like swerve, emergency stop, pull off a jump, and most of the Fast and Furious stuff you really want to get into. But let's get to what a lot of people do when in a vehicle in combat. Ramming. If you run into anything that has HP, it is considered a ram in Cyberpunk Red. And I do mean anything, from people to signs. This is one of the more harsh sides of vehicle combat because when you do, both your vehicle and whatever you hit takes 6d6 damage. And anyone inside of your vehicle, including you, or anyone living hit by you, also get the critical injury of whiplash, which increases your death save penalty. If you don't drop whatever you hit to 0 HP, your movement stops right there. If you do drop it to 0 HP, you can continue on. If you hit a pedestrian, you can always continue moving forward, but if you didn't take them out of the fight with that hit, guess what? They can choose to be on top of your hood now, straight up action movie style. And if you do want to get around that whiplash, there's cyberware that prevents it, and if you're a nomad, you can get the upgrade called a combat plow, which takes out whiplash entirely. Vehicle combat is fun in Red because usually, while you're the one driving along, your crew is hanging out of the windows shooting at their target. Your focus needs to be on keeping control and making sure you don't send everyone flying off the road. Don't let anyone ever tell you a nomad is not a good pick as a role. They'll say that because they're jealous they don't have the ability to get free cars, which usually are between 20,000 to 60,000 eddies. They're up there, but you get them for free. That covers it though for vehicle combat. Those rules are pretty much the same for all 3 types. If you want to take a peek at the other videos here in the Nutshell series for Cyberpunk Red, click on this playlist to go right to it. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time, and I hope you find yourselves a good table.